Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Sanderlanche podcast. I am Data, and with me is
Joe,
Dak,
and Jamie.
And it has been a while since we started recording, so long, or since the last time we recorded. I can't talk. So long, in fact, that I suspect our co-hosts have forgotten everything about the book, including who the good guys and bad guys are. So, in aid of that, this week we are reading chapters, or we did read, we already read them, by the way, chapters 46 and 47 of Mistborn, The Well of Ascension, wherein the devious Sazed gathers together a group of thieves and brigands to figure out a way to get rid of Elend and Vin. And then Straff Venture's golden boy Zane is the victim of an attempted murder, only to then get his heart broken. And finally, there is a betrayal so shocking that no one could ever have predicted it, ever. Hang on to something, everyone. The Sanderlanche is about to begin.
Elders, tellers, keepers of the bottom, treasures of the dirt. Russian string, we swivel and sing and dig for the annals of the earth. And we try to keep a little beauty in the world. All that died, we keep it in our hands.
Yes, so we had a shocking revelation that someone in the group predicted. And look, I have to say this before we get into it. You guys would not believe the number of emails and comments other places that I have received being like, Joe clearly read ahead or read information about this, because there is no way he predicted this from the beginning of the book. That is, there's just no way.
you guys are naysayers.
So,
I definitely did not read. I'm not interested enough to read that far ahead. and then throughout the rest of the podcast, pretend like I don't know all the other things that are divulged. And I think that's the only big prediction that I've made this book that's paid off. So I really don't see how you guys could possibly imagine that I would do that.
My thing is that I've been telling people is like, look, you have to think about what you're saying, because he's not that dumb to read ahead and then from the very first moment be like, hey, I think it's this, and then like stick to his guns so certainly the whole time that with no subtlety whatsoever. I'm like, if he'd actually figured something or like read ahead and knew something and didn't want to reveal it, he would have slightly more subtlety than that. Anyway.
Yeah. Also, saying I'm not that dumb is correct. I mean, I'm not claiming to be a genius over here, but I have read a book
You're
or
not
two.
that dumb.
I'm pretty good at picking up on things in books. That's why I like books, because I like solving things. That's why. Well, I should say I like mysteries. Like that's why I'm really into Harry Potter. Almost every book is a mystery.
just looking at the disparity here, Jamie called Rashek being the Lord Ruler, and all the fans are just like, oh my god, yes, you nailed it, good job. Joe calls Tensoon actually being the dog, and all the fans just like, bullshit, he didn't figure that out.
To be fair, Jamie called that like 2/3 of the way
Much
through the book,
later.
as opposed to like 1/3 of the way through the book or less than that.
Hey, man.
Yeah.
But also,
And
the
shit-
Ten
and
Soon
shit-
reveal is like giant in most people's minds. Like generally, people did not see it coming.
But
Yeah.
both of us, like, as soon as we read it, had the reaction of, fuck, he was right.
Yeah.
I think I actually said it out loud, and Dak
did.
was like, "Oh, I was wondering when you'd get there."
I was a little surprised myself, but I kept thinking they haven't revealed this yet. Who? Anyway, I almost
My thought was
I-
you were Fry and just going, I am shocked. Well, not that shocked.
not that shocked. Yeah, I almost didn't stick to it. I was getting ready to say, you know what? Maybe it's not him. Maybe it's somebody else. I'm glad I stuck to my guns on that one, because obviously it paid off. Yeah, and I mean, if I had read ahead, don't you think I'd be making a lot more predictions? Like, I don't know. I don't know what
other
predict.
predictions you might have gotten
Exactly.
right. So how are you gonna?
Exactly.
You can't even say that. There might be 500 that people are like, see, this is what I'm talking about.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, you're making a good point.
Anyway, what
was
did you
it?
guys? Sorry, go ahead.
Also, I was just gonna say. Also, like, I wouldn't do that to the podcast. Like, I'm in it just like everybody else. Like, I don't want to know what happens before everybody else knows. That takes all the fun out of it.
Yeah.
So I hope that reveal was enjoyable for everyone for various reasons. I mean, and it's not the only one in these chapters. So what did you guys think of the 2 chapters that we did this week?
I really like these 2 chapters a lot, not just because my prediction came true. I think these are just really great chapters, because I think now maybe I'm going to officially call it. I think now the Sanderlanche is beginning. because we've got this force that's coming, and all we find out all the characters knew in the back of their minds, except for maybe Vin and Ellen, that they didn't really have a hope to begin with in completely defending the city. And so we've got these push. I almost call this one the two betrayals, right? Because it's not really a betrayal, but I feel like Ellen and Vin might see it that way. Like they're getting set to betray Ellen and Vin for a good reason. And then we have the Tensun and the Zane betrayal. So I really enjoyed these chapters. I've also caught a few things that I think Data had teased us about in past podcasts, and when I was reading them, I was like, wait a minute, he mentioned something about this. He asked us a question about something that's revealed in this chapter, so I was like, oh, I see now. But yeah, I really enjoyed these chapters. Really hope this is the start of the Sanderlanche for this book, because it was really, really good.
Okay, yeah.
I feel like I say every week I really enjoyed these chapters, so it's like I think I'm just being redundant. But no, these were really good, like genuinely really good chapters. It was nice to get a bit more focus with the old crew, because like I think we talked about before, it seems like some of them, especially Doxson, have really been out of focus in this book. So it's nice to have them all talking and getting ready to do some stuff there. The Tensoon reveal was huge. Like on one level, I was really excited that, you know, we worked out this plot line. Joe was right, and we had that big reveal. I was a little bit disappointed in the sense that it really means throughout these books we really didn't get a sense of Orosur himself and his personality as a character. I'm just like, he was sort of just a device there in the first book to hang around in the background and then take Kelsier when he needed to. And then in this book, he's there for like a chapter or two being resentful. And then it's like, oh, actually, he's gone. And everything we thought was him was someone else. So it was after building in my head this picture of this character to find out it was a different character, and we never actually knew that character to start with, was a bit of a disappointment, I guess. But if I guess that's sort of the point. Like if we didn't have that, then this reveal wouldn't be as shocking as it is. So that's just, you know, story structure, I guess. And Zane's dead. Thank you, God.
I knew you were gonna I was editing the last episode, and you were just like, I really want Zane to die. Like, just I hate him so much, and I was like, yeah, they're gonna like these next chapters.
Oh, I was just so done with him. Like, just the whiny bad boy sort of character is one I've never really liked that much for whatever reason. Read into that what you will. And to see him get because some of the stuff he was saying to Vin, which we'll get to when we get there, but it really made me even more uncomfortable. And the more and more I was like, you really don't have anything good about you. So to see him finally get his comeuppance on the back of just what he was saying to her, like, was really satisfying in a story sense, not just because I disliked the guy. Yeah, no, I was immensely satisfied for many reasons when he kicked the bucket.
Goodbye, Zane. No one will miss you.
Not even a little.
Yeah, I got to say I'm a bit relieved that this whole Zane or Ellen problem is sort of resolved. Vin has made her choice and Zane is out of the picture. Well, hopefully. I mean, it's pretty hard to come back from a dagger in the neck, I think, but...
You would hope, at least.
Yeah. Again, really loved both of these chapters. I liked that we had a few different perspectives in the first chapter that we read. I liked that it's all rosy and all that sort of stuff. They were actually having a real conversation.
Yep.
You know, let's forget about we're not supporting the king anymore. This is just what the hell do we do now? But then also that coming to the realization that this isn't particularly going to end well for these people in this room. But how do they sort of secure that legacy, I guess, and start making a difference? So it was kind of a bit of a bittersweet sort of chapter, I think. All the stuff with Straff and Zane. I honestly really thought that Zane was like, that's it. I'm going to go kill my dad now. This is it. But I mean, it turned out not to be a very good day for Zane anyway. But
yeah, who could blame him really if he had decided?
Yeah, exactly. So even Straff was a bit shocked that all didn't go his way. But yeah, really, really enjoyed the reveal of Tensoon. I really loved how it just sort of came really quickly. I think I liked that. I really liked that there genuinely was a bond between Tensoon and Vin. That it wasn't all for nothing, because some of our favorite chapters in this book has been the interaction between those two characters, and I'm pleased that it wasn't all just a total ruse, and you know he did feel a bond there, or Tensoon did feel a bond there. So I hope we get to see him again in some form, but who knows?
Yeah, because he kind of just vanishes there at the end of that chapter. He's like, I will not be here when you come back. So
Yeah.
who knows? I think Joe theorized that like the Kandra home world or whatever might be important, so maybe we'll get something there if that turns out to be the case.
Yeah, there's a lot of. Another reason I like these chapters so much is there's a lot of like tasty secret meat. I feel like that was put in here.
Secret meat.
Yeah, that like we're only just getting a taste of, and it's gonna like I feel like it's gonna be a big deal because there were a few tidbits in here that were very intriguing.
Very interested in some things that got said. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into these chapters, I guess. So we start out from a Breeze perspective, which now we've had a couple of at this point, and he's intrigued by the intrigue that is happening with this letter from Sazed.
Wait, before that though, let's talk about the elephant.
The epigraph. I totally forgot the epigraph because it's so tiny in this one. The epigraph is the two are not the same.
Yeah, and then also before you get to the Sazed of it all. Like, can we talk about him being in bed with this young girl?
I was actually going to touch on that, and it says in the annotations, actually, he talks about this section with Breeze, and this is interesting to me because he's, really a full-blooded nobleman, and is talking about this, and blah, blah, blah. And then at the very end of that paragraph, there's one little sentence that says, yes, he did just sleep with Alrianne. No, it is not the first time.
Okay, enough said. I guess the author told us what we needed to know.
Yeah. I don't know, how to feel about that. We know that she's the one who's been seducing him, so I don't know. And when it comes down to it, he's like, I should feel bad about this. I'm all about to die anyway, so I guess I don't blame him too much on that score. But yeah, what did you think about the epigraph? What does it mean?
I honestly didn't give it much thought.
Okay. Joe just seemed to feel it was really significant, so I was like, well, let's talk about it then. But okay.
Oh, actually, I did not think it was significant. When I said hold on, let's back up. I was talking about the Alrianne thing. No, it's fine.
I did have to backtrack to the previous epigraph to sort of think, what's he talking about? So
I remember the context. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess it just comes down to what he's talking about. What he has memorized is different to what the other world bringers are saying. So there's a disparity in their dogma. Or something like, okay, that'll come into play. There's something wrong with how a hero is chosen or whatever. So cool. When he eventually stops writing, "This is all my fault," we'll probably get to that.
Well, and at least it gives us some sort of justification for like 3 or 4 chapters ago now. He's like, you all know about my fabled memory. It's true that I can memorize stuff, and we're just all like, all right, dude, way to brag for no reason in here.
Yeah.
But man, aren't you running out of space on your wall?
There was a reason.
I have to go on and on.
So I don't know. Do you guys feel
second wall hidden? Go to this mountain for part 2.
Wow, the two aren't the same.
Oh, that would be
great.
There are
2 walls.
The two aren't the same,
No,
of course.
It really is like Skyrim, where you have to read like one piece of a dragon word, and then you have to go to a different wall to read the rest of the dragon word, and then you have to go to a third wall to complete the dragon word.
Boo.
It's just like that.
Damn it.
It's going to be like the other wall is all the way back at the conventicle. He's like, dang it. It's like, go upstairs now. Freaking Marsh. Okay, but no, I mean, do you think that, do you have issues with Breeze and Alrianne and this relationship that is apparently developed here?
I keep forgetting she's here.
She's just like,
there's so much other shit going on at the moment. Like every time she gets mentioned, it's like, oh right, she is someone in the city.
Yeah, okay, that's fair.
Yeah,
it's like, what else is she doing at this point?
It gave me a very, I don't know why, because she doesn't wake up or anything, but it gave me a very Big Lebowski vibe where Ariane's laying in the bed. She's like, it increases the chances of conception. Breeze spits out his wine, and he's just like, you gotta know something about Breeze.
No, I don't know. Now Breeze is Jeff Bridges. It's very sad. Okay. Like in my mind, you've ruined him. Not that I have a problem with Jeff Bridges. It's just not very Breeze.
Well, maybe Jeff Bridges.
Maybe it is kind of breezy, I guess. Actually, now that the more I think about it, the more he's like the dude. Okay.
Yeah, man. He's like the dude.
Just wine instead of White Russians. Yeah, it all makes sense now.
Yeah. No Kahlua, no cream, just straight up red wine.
Does that mean Clubs is Walter?
I don't
Nah,
think
he's
Clubs talks nearly enough to be Walter.
Yeah, I think Doxson would be the Walter. He's like, Breeze is like, you're not wrong, Dox. Or actually, no, it would have to be Ham, I guess. It's like, you're not wrong, Ham. You're just an asshole.
Yeah.
I was just like, Ham's not that much of an asshole though, but I think we can all agree Spook is Donnie.
Oh, that means Spook's gonna die. So sad.
Aw.
The Germans are gonna get him.
They do want to send him on a quest.
It's true.
It's like, shut the fuck up, Spook. You're out of your element.
That's why he doesn't get invited to the meeting. He'd be out of his element. Okay, so Breeze is reminiscing about his life as a noble and how betrayals work in the noble court versus the brutal openness of betrayals in the Ska underground, which he eventually decided he preferred. And he's just like, man, Sazed wants to meet in secret? Like, this is the last person on the crew I would be expecting. And he almost thinks it's a trap. He's like, but, I mean, if it was a trap, then he'd have to try to get me to do something more than just show up at a secret meeting. That's not, like, betrayal in and of itself.
If it was a trap, wouldn't I have seen Admiral Akbar at some point?
It's a trap.
And we get a moment where Breeze kind of uses his soothing to soothe the guards that Sazed has outside the door, so he can confirm Sazed is the only one in there, which I thought was really slick. Like, that's some good breezing. And then he's just like, man, these guards are a bad idea. Like, he goes in to talk to Sazed, and he's just like, okay, look, I love that he starts out with like, I just had to make sure this wasn't some sort of trap. It's not some sort of trap, right? And Sazed's like, huh? What are you talking about?
Well, I did like the little notes, like, oh man, I just can't imagine a terroristman being a threat. Is that what the Lord Ruler did?
Yeah. It's like the Lord Ruler probably thought the same thing. Sazed is more dangerous than anyone gives him credit for.
It's like when, was it Now You See Me 2 came out and everyone had trouble with seeing Daniel Radcliffe as a magician? It was like, guys.
It's like, I'm sorry, what?
Yeah.
I'm apparently not remembering Now You See Me 2 very well. Daniel Radcliffe is... I have to look back at this and remember this movie.
I actually don't know if he was a magician in that. That was just the thing that was going on. Yeah, I don't actually think he was.
He was like rich guy or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was
rich guy, the magician.
Okay. Yeah.
Talking about science. Yeah.
Science.
Straff Venture treats objects like women, man. That's what Breeze would say.
I love the first Now You See Me. Sorry, now you got me thinking about that. I really like that movie. The second one wasn't
good movie.
So Breeze has recommendations. He's like, okay, well, first there should be some more lamps and some food, and you should get rid of the guards. That way, if somebody does walk in, it doesn't look like we're doing anything suspicious. And Sazed is like, oh, that's a good idea. And then Clubs pops in, and he's just like, get rid of the guards right now. He's not as subtle a man as Breeze, so not any surprise there. And then Ham shows up next, and Breeze is like, wait. How many people are invited to this secret meeting? Like, I'm feeling less and less special every moment. And Breeze is like, everybody except for Elend and Vin and Spook, who he still calls Lord Lestibornes, because that's how Sazed rolls.
So respectful.
Sazed is polite. He still calls Clubs Cladent.
Yep. And then Ham's like, wait, what are we trying to hide from our Mistborn and king? And then Doxson comes in. He's like, not the king anymore. In fact, it could be argued Elend isn't the leader of this crew anymore. He fell into that position by happenstance. Just like he fell into the throne. Yeah, Doxson's not bitter or anything. It's fine. And him and Ham kind of have a go at each other here. Because Ham is actually kind of loyal to Elend, rather. Like, they're buddies now, sort of. And they're both accusing each other of, like, not doing anything. And, like, they go back and forth. And that is, so I wanted to pick up in the annotations. He points out, he's like, this scene with the crew arguing is probably one of the most honest scenes we get in the book. Finally, they let their real emotions out, and they're not always happy. They don't always get along. Dox and Ham particularly tend to get on each other's nerves. They don't often talk about it, but the two of them have never really gotten along, which is why we don't often see them interacting together.
Oh.
So, fun facts. And if you look back outside of the meetings, I mean, we don't really see any of the crew interacting with each other all that much outside of, like, Kelsier's big everybody meetings, but the two of them are not somebody you see, like, hanging out.
Which is weird because they tend to be the more agreeable people in the crew. Like, well, Ham more so than Dox, but Dox is less likely to up and raise objections in the way that Breeze or Clubs are, so...
Yeah, I guess that they're just two very different people, I suppose.
Yeah. Plus, it's... Another reason this scene works with tension is, like, at this point, we still don't know that Doxson isn't the Kandra, so...
That's true, too. I hadn't thought of it like that.
Because I spent the whole thing just looking side-eye at Dox and just going, are you or are you not you?
Yeah, that was, I mean, definitely because Doxson was my prediction for imposter. So reading this too, I was like, oh, maybe. And then, that all went to hell.
Yeah, but that does kind of throw a different light on the scene. I hadn't thought about that because, I guess it's almost like ratcheting that possibility up. Partially because other than that one conversation with Vin, we don't see Doxson much in this book until now. This is the most we've seen of him, maybe. So it's the biggest chance to kind of think about that.
Definitely the most outspoken we've seen him as well.
That's true. And Ham accuses him of just being upset because he didn't end up as leader of the crew after Kelsier died. And eventually, Breeze just has to, super obviously, strongly soothe them both. And he's like, both of you shut up. Stop it. This is not helping. And he's like, okay, Sazed, you put this together. Make the meeting go. Whatever you wanted us here to talk about. They start to get into a discussion about what's going to happen with the city. And mainly Breeze a little bit because he's already had the conversation with Clubs about what's really going on. But mostly Clubs is like, no, here, let me explain to you what's happening and why this is bad. This is about to go really badly for us. Nobody else had apparently put it together yet. And Breeze puts it in the light of, if Straff comes and saves everybody from the Koloss, he's going to be seen as the hero of Luthadel, basically. He's going to come back and save everybody when the king failed to protect them and stuff. So, they'll welcome this guy who stopped the Koloss from killing everyone. And they're trying to come up with options, what are we going to do? And Club's like, we're going to fight and we're going to die. It needed to be said. No use fooling yourselves anymore. This was always going to happen. And we were always going to stay here and get killed defending the city. We're not going to let ourselves give up because Kel would not let us. Jeez, Kelsier, even from the grave, you're still just forcing these guys into ridiculous situations.
And he would laugh if he knew that too.
Yep. Oh, Kelsier, you nut. And then Sazed has his inspirational speech about how, we're all probably going to die, but it's going to help the Ska get free because they're going to have this example of Ska who would stand up against oppression. It might take hundreds of years, but it's going to work, and we started it, which is really depressing, and nobody's super happy about this.
I like how Ham just asks Breeze, just can you make me more confident about this, because I'm not feeling it.
He's like, oh yeah, sure, no problem, buddy. And says this, what I wanted to call this meeting about is that not everyone needs to die here. There are some people who should not. And people on the crew, Club's well, I'm not abandoning the men. And Ham's like, no, me either. And Doxson's like, no, I'm not leaving. And Breeze is like, I'll go. Is it too early to volunteer?
I'm not shocked that was Breeze's response.
Although clearly it's just a joke because he's like, no. I mean, we all know the two people you didn't invite to the meeting, or three people, whatever, they're the ones that you want out of the city, right? And so they come up with a plan or start talking about a plan to kind of trick them into leaving the city. It's Vin won't leave without Elend, so we have to get rid of Elend. And Elend won't want to leave the city when it's in trouble, so we have to convince him that maybe it's not in that much trouble, which that'll be impressive. And Sazed wants to send Tindwyl as well, and Spook, to help out.
Yes, they need a pack horse.
That's what Tindwyl recruited, I can't talk, Spook for the last time we saw them together, so, that may have been Spook's biggest scene in this book. He hasn't had much screen time this book.
Yeah, pretty well.
Yeah.
Nobody is upset about that.
I think Brandon went back in time and, he heard me talk on the podcast and went back in time and fixed the book.
And actually, everyone's kind of encouraged. Doxson and Ham start working together happily, and they have a plan now. The plan involves almost all of them dying, but it's a plan. And once they have something to work on, they can move past everything and focus. And that he also says that in the annotations. He's like, if there's something they can focus and work towards, then the group can keep going. Although Doxson at some point does raise he's like, wait a second. So we're going to have a huge battle, and you want us to get rid of our most powerful piece in this battle. Really? But I don't think anyone expects Vin, no matter how amazing she is, to stand up to, 20,000 Koloss? You need a lot of coins for that.
Just do what Ellen did. Challenge him one-on-one.
One at a time.
Take a number.
You ate my horse, and you ate my horse. You ate my boyfriend's horse.
The stable hand's just so we're running out of horses. That's don't actually give them to him.
And we cut to Vin, who is exploring Kredek Shaw, which the Lord Ruler's palace, the Hill of a Thousand Spires, which apparently no one has cared to spend any time in since the Lord Ruler was overthrown. So it's
Makes sense.
well, yeah. I mean, on some level, it makes a lot of sense because scary Lord Ruler house. But on the other hand, it's like a giant palace when they were in need of stuff or places to put people. You'd think that.
I mean, I wouldn't want to go, but.
So I'm sure there were like urchin children standing in front of it, just going, "I dare you to go in there," like kids do with abandoned buildings.
Yep, that sounds about right.
Well, Vin did say there are other footprints in there, so people have been in there, and they have been in there to look for the Adium, but no one's going to take up residence in there.
She does say it. She sees a set of footprints going in, so she's not the only one. She's kind of surprised by that, actually. And she goes back to the Lord Ruler's little hut inside the palace. And she's kind of like, it's a very introspective section of this chapter where she's thinking about what happened in the last book, and she's thinking about the Lord Ruler's place, how it's set up to remind him of Terrace. And she kind of thinks about what we talked about, where it's like, this guy who's from Terrace decided to build his giant capital city way south of his homeland for some reason. And as she points out, not only his homeland, but the Wall of Ascension is also there, so it seems like an odd move. There's lots of introspection here, which I don't want to get into in too much detail. And she's really trying to think about, Ellen or Zane. Ellen or Zane. Which one? Ellen is the one she wanted. Zane represents what she felt she had to become for the good of everyone.
Whiny?
Yeah. And she decides the Lord Ruler's palace holds no clues or answers for her, and she leaves. Then we cut to Zane's point of view in Straff's camp, where he hears a tent spike being pounded in a specific rhythm and burns steel and pewter as he wakes up. And this is really interesting because one of the first things Kelsier taught Vin was like burn away metals before you go to bed because some of these metals can be poisonous if they sit in your stomach. And he says here that he always swallows some steel and pewter. He knows that it's probably going to kill him at some point, but dying someday is better in Zane opinions than dying today. Which, okay.
But he does die today. You see?
Deep.
Today is someday. And God yells, "Kill them!" And he kills them, and everybody's happy.
Well, except God. He doesn't seem happy at all. He's never happy.
Oh, come on. I mean, Zane usually doesn't kill people when God tells him to, so it's probably good.
I guess.
He's like, "Come on, God." And God's like, "I've never been happy."
But yes, it was Straff's soldiers. Straff sent them to take out Zane because we saw a couple chapters ago that Straff was just like, no, Zane's too crazy to be allowed to live at this point. I'm going to have to do something about that guy. And here's him trying to do something. It really didn't work that well.
He just, like, when he made that decision, it's like, yeah, welcome to the party, pal.
Yeah, we kind of knew a long time ago that Zane was too crazy to be allowed to live. And I like that Zane's takeaway is the attack had come later than he expected. Straff trusts me more than I assumed. And Brandon writes in the annotations, who else but Zane would see getting attacked as a sign of trust? And apparently Zane pays this guy to watch while he's sleeping and make sure nobody comes, and if they do, to pound on a tent spike in a certain way. So he tosses the guy some money and leaves. And he thinks about how his dad likes to play with dangerous tools. He likes power and dangerous tools like the pits of Hatsin and like Zane. And he makes a point that in both cases now, the dangerous tools end up burning him. And Straff knew there was a good chance that his assassins would fail and he would end up dead, so he had, as Zane says, a romp with his favorite mistresses and get some food and stuff in preparation. So, and he tries to bribe Zane. He's like, "Don't kill me. I have Adium for you, buried in a place only I know. I'll name you my heir tomorrow if you want." And Zane's just like, "The city is yours." And apparently Straff was planning on just returning to the Northern Dominance at this point. He hadn't figured out what clubs had figured out that he could pretend to leave, but Zane has figured it out. And he's like, wait for the Koloss to take the city, and then you can take them when the defenses are down.
Yeah. He's a smart guy, that Zane.
just crazy.
Yeah,
crazy
well,
smart.
Apparently not, which we'll get to.
Well, oh yeah, well, that's true. And he says that he's taking Vin with him tonight, and so you don't have to worry about her anymore. And he starts.
No, you're not.
It almost works. It comes very close.
Yeah, and it made me sad how supposedly close it came. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. But Straff's like, why are you letting me live? And Zane's like, a man shouldn't kill his father. And he takes off. Vin notes early in the book that Zane, unlike every other Mistborn, doesn't wear a mist cloak. And we find out here kind of why is like he pulls out this bundle that he's hidden in a tree, and he's like, the first gift Straff had ever given him, a mist cloak from when he snapped. too precious to wear around, to soil and use. So he's got some very deep daddy issues, is what we learned. I think we kind of already knew this. But that's where he hides his adium, with the mistcloak. But he also chooses not to wear the cloak because there is a bump on his chest where his heart, it's the space just above his rib cages where his heart thumped. There was a large bump there. There always had been. He didn't think about it often. His mind seemed to get distracted when he did. He didn't like the way the cloaks rubbed against this small point that stuck out of his back just between the shoulder blades.
Yeah.
So there's something to that. He says it's always been there.
Yep.
I don't know if that's true, but that's what he says. Could it have been put into him when he was an infant? Yeah, maybe. My thought on this particular spike thing, because I think it's described as a spike.
Yeah, it says the small point of the spike sticks out of his back just between his shoulder blades.
Yeah. Is that maybe Daddy Venture was like found out some weird Inquisitor stuff and basically created a Mistborn using said spike somehow? That is kind of where my mind is going. He was so frustrated with not having a Mistborn that he tried to create one, and then it worked.
Along some logic of how they create Inquisitors or something like that.
Right, because we know the Inquisitors have all the powers of Mistborn and beyond. So
they've also got way more spikes though. So
also
true. You're right about that. So I don't really know, but I mean, obviously he's dead now. But I mean, I don't think it would have been mentioned if it wasn't important. So
Daddy will bring it up at some point. I got drunk one night. Was swinging this thing round.
Maybe Straff was trying to create an Inquisitor son instead of just a Mistborn or something, and maybe you don't actually need as many spikes as it takes to create an Inquisitor. Maybe you just need the one, but they went, you know what would look really scary is if we put these spikes through our eyes. Oh, yeah.
Just the intimidation factor. Well, I feel like assuming it goes back to before the Final Empire, because he says it's always been there. If during the time of the Final Empire, Straff Venture had been wanting to create his own Inquisitor, he would definitely not want it to be obvious looking at this person that they were like that, because then the Lord Ruler's like, wait a second, what do you think you're doing?
Yeah.
So
a bootleg Inquisitor? What the hell, man?
A Northern Dominance bootleg. Yep. They're so cheap.
Or maybe they were going to make him into an Inquisitor or something and then didn't. Don't know. Yeah.
Well, I think that's basically along the lines of what I thought. It's like, I assumed that he was always intended to be a Mistborn, but of course you don't know that till someone snaps. And Straff got kind of frustrated waiting for that to happen, so he put a spike through the kid, and that was how he snapped from the trauma of that.
Oh, that would be pretty traumatic. Yep.
That would definitely make you snap, for sure.
Yeah. Plus, the trauma from that event would make him repress it and think, no, it's always been there. Dad doesn't hate me that much.
Yeah.
Or his spike is the voice of God. Maybe there's like a little cassette player or something in there inside his spike.
There'd be like a really tiny person inside the spike. Like, hey.
Yeah. It's like the guy in the garbage, but in the spike.
Well, I mean, God just keeps yelling about killing people. Maybe it's a tiny miniature Koloss.
Ooh,
and that's the only topic he knows he can talk about.
Yep.
Kill, murder. Well, I mean, he seems like a little more sentient at the end there, and I think that Jamie's definitely right. I think the spike and the voice are connected in some way.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so we're moving into the next chapter because Zane's like, it's time to go, God said. And so Zane leaves the Mistcloak and he goes off to find the woman who would save him. And that's the end of that chapter. We get to the second epigraph, is also very short. It's just Alendi believes as they do.
Which, again, sort of makes me think, all right, so Quan is saying what I remember is different to what everyone else is saying. So that's got to be why he turned against Alendi, because like he remembers some stuff that no one else is bringing up. And Alendi is just going along with what everyone else is saying, which is probably only all the good shit, and no one's focusing on, there's actually some negative sides to this as well, which you need to be aware of. And Alendi and everyone else is ignoring that, and Quan's like, no, you can't just ignore this fact. It's kind of like, cutting down all the trees will give us lumber, but you're also going to destroy a rainforest.
It could be as simple as, like, the things that he's remembering are things that prove Alendi's not really the hero, because that's what he's saying this whole time. It's like, I figured out that Alendi's not really the hero and no one will listen.
Yeah.
And so it might even be just like, this says the hero's going to be blonde, and Alendi's not blonde, so it can't be him.
Yeah. That's it. He did talk earlier about, we basically, did we make the prophecy fit the man instead of the other way around?
It's true. So, okay. So we get another kind of introspective section on Vin, except this time the mist spirit is watching her, and she feels like the sound of the well.
I keep forgetting about this thing too. I was like, oh yeah, you're here. What are you?
What indeed? And so I kind of like the so what I didn't mention in that last chapter was that Brandon wrote in the annotations that the section where she's walking through Critic Shaw thinking about stuff is one of the later additions to the book. And here he says, this scene with Vin at the beginning feels just a tad redundant to me because it covers some of the same ground as the one of her trailing through the Lord Ruler's palace in the last chapter. The problem is I like this scene so much more. It seems to me that the writing is better, so I didn't have the heart to cut it, even though I'd just done another scene that did many of these same things. But I think it's got different enough stuff because she's thinking more about the deepness and about this mist spirit and about the well here, which she wasn't really doing in that last chapter. And these are all the things that you guys are like, we want more of this.
Yeah. It was like last chapter she was looking into the past and the Lord Ruler. This one's looking into her own future. So just approaching it from a different angle.
But she starts to think, I'm really stretching myself thin here. Like, there's so much stuff that I want to do. Got to research the deepness and the Hero of Ages. Got to figure out what the Mist Spirit is. I'm supposed to be finding the spy, and I really haven't been working on that at all lately. And Set's still alive. Can't even perform a proper massacre. And she has a little conversation with Orsor, who we know is not really Orsor now, but we can keep calling him that for now. And he's just like, dude, just make a decision. Quit being a drama queen. And she's like, Sazed would have said something wise and comforting. And he's like, I don't know why that's relevant to our conversation.
See, this is like, I'm sorry we're going to miss this. I love this guy.
Yeah. Well, I think they're setting us up here, Dak. They're setting us up for, because obviously he's got a little redemption here at the end of the chapter. And supposedly he's supposed to go report back to his homeland, which is where, essentially he's supposed to be executed. But I feel like maybe, and I'm just spitballing here, maybe their homeland, I think we've been told it's up in the north. Maybe when Vin goes up there, she'll save him from being executed, and we'll have the doggy duo, the dog team back together. Maybe Vin and then it'll be Vin and Tenson instead of Vin and fake Horser.
You're gonna have to change the theme song.
Yep, new theme song, please.
It still works. There's 2 syllables in the name.
Okay. I just like his comment about how terracemen don't taste good.
They're no rancid meat. I'll give him that.
Yeah, maybe if you let them age a little bit, they would taste better. And then Zane shows up, and Orsor growls at him. And Zane's like, "It's time to go." And she's like, "I don't know." And Zane's like, "Yes, you want to come with me." And she's like, "Okay, I guess I want to go with you." But he's basically like, "Hey, if you weren't stuck here, if you could go wherever you wanted, where would you go?" And she's like, "I want to go north." He's like, "All right, I don't care where we go, just not here." And he convinces her that, hey, if we leave, then Straff will have lost his Mistborn, but he won't know that you're not here, Lies. So really, you'll be helping out everybody by leaving.
But mainly me.
Yeah, seriously. Save me, Vin.
Just not right.
And she decides to go with him until the moment that she turns to grab a vial of metal, and he like jumps or starts to be like, "Oh, what you doing?" And she's like, it's like, Ellen wouldn't have done that. Ellen trusts me. He clearly does not. And so she's like, "Okay, I can't, I gotta stay." It's a really sudden turn, but it actually makes sense to me. So also going with Zane never made much sense to me. So maybe it's just,
yeah.
In the annotations, he says, "This is a scene in the book I worked on for a long time. I knew I had to get Vin's decision just right and then do Zane's betrayal with equal power. I wanted the reader to feel that this was inevitable once Vin made her decision." Then he talks about why she stayed with Ellen, but it's really, he says, the thing she saw in Ellen was the ability to live without fear, or at least without the fear that those around her didn't trust her. Which, yeah, that's the book gets that across. And he does not like being told no.
Nope.
And he tries to be like, "I love you, Vin." And she's like, "I believe you, but I still can't go with you."
Isn't that just the response you want to "I love you"? I believe you. But... I mean, who wouldn't love
Yep.
me? But
I love.
mean,
him,
I'm so
yeah.
attractive. I get it. I just, can't do it.
I killed God. I mean, what's not to love?
Yeah.
I love Vin as a
Wouldn't want
character.
this.
When we were gonna have a baby, we didn't know if it was a boy or a girl. If it was a girl, Vin was one of my thoughts for a name because I liked it and I love her character. Although I also thought Devi from the King Killer Chronicles, that may have been my favorite one.
Ooh. Yeah, that's a good one.
Random sidebar with data.
Yeah, well,
Oh, luckily any of us have room to talk.
Yeah, good point.
but yeah, Zane. Once he realizes that she's not gonna change her mind, he attacks, and it's like
You don't
screaming.
want to be my girl? You're not going to be anybody ever.
Yeah, no, pretty much.
I can't have you. No one can.
You were supposed to save me.
It's just, oh yeah, way to put your issues on her, dude.
Well, it gets interesting at the end when we find out why he thinks that.
Yeah. I just, as always, Futurama comes into it. He's just like, you were supposed to help me, and I just picture Zoidberg as Jesus going, I help those who help themselves.
And I'm his friend Jesus.
You were the chosen one. Oh wait, that's not Futurama at all.
You were my brother. I mean, my girlfriend. I mean, the girl I obsessed over.
The girl who borrowed my dog, which, like, it does come back to, like, that joke we made when Tensoon first took the dog's body. We said Zane was going to show up looking for his dog. Yeah, we were actually kind of right.
Yeah, that's true.
It was his dog the whole time.
It was his dog.
There were emails about that after that episode aired, where they're like, "Oh my gosh, this joke about it being his dog." And at the time, I was
I mean, it was his blob creature.
Like, at the time, I was like, "I want this to now be a recurring joke that Zane thinks Orser is his dog," and it didn't end up doing that. But I wanted it to keep happening so that when we got here, it would be like, "Oh my gosh, look at what he did to us."
He got our dog.
Oh man, but yeah, so Zane's kind of just thrashing her because he has Adium and she doesn't. And that's when she's like, she gives Orser the code so she can get the Adium that she has entrusted him with. And when he doesn't do what she told him to, she's like, hey, dude, why aren't you doing the thing?
Bad dog.
Yeah, make with the Adium, bro.
And Zane's like, Chandra, come to me. You will no longer obey her commands, Tensoon. And that's when Joe's like, oh my gosh, I told you.
Yeah,
no one
today
believed
I was
me.
reading the chapters today. And I texted Data. I was like, reading the chapters right now. ... I knew it. All caps.
Yep, that thing happened. So yeah, all the way back, we never saw Orser as a dog. He killed Orser and ate the dog bones himself and became the dog. And then lied about how long the bones, like how old. And that was the thing that throws people is because, and that throws Vin, is like, the bones are X hours old, and she's like, okay, well, some of us were on the wall at that time, so it couldn't have been us. But the way we know they're X hours old is because Orser tells us that. So this
Our whole foundation was a lie.
Exactly.
The question I have out of this is, we don't know what it takes to kill a Chandra. Like, we saw Orosur to, like, take an axe to the back in the last book, and he's just kind of like, oh, that's unpleasant.
Yep.
And, like, we know that, like, they can kill the body, but then they can damage the body, but they just got to eat another body to be okay again. So the question that I have here is, okay, Tensoon killed Orosur. Okay, 1, how? 2, what happened to his body? What happens to their body when they die? Do they just, like, the bones just go flying everywhere and they melt, or?
Well, I thought
when did the Mistborn to show up?
Yeah. Ooh, wow. Yeah. I originally thought that Orser was eaten by the other Chandra, whoever it might have been. Like that they can just absorb each other somehow.
I guess that could be possible. I mean, they can eat flesh, and so maybe, especially since they can transform their bodies to be exactly like flesh. Maybe it's as easy to eat as flesh. I don't know.
Yeah, possibly.
Brandon has some interesting stuff in the annotations about the reveal, and he talks about how he actually stole this device, the plot device, from Mistborn Prime, which is the first. He wrote 2 books originally, actually, that have kind of combined into the first Mistborn book. One was called Mistborn Prime, or that's what he calls it now. It's just Mistborn originally. And the other one was The Final Empire, which, The Final Empire Prime. And so ideas from both of these books got combined to be the first Mistborn book. But the Chandra was from Mistborn Prime, and it was like the spy who turns out to be the hero's own Chandra was a plot device he came up with for that book, and he kind of just stole it directly for this book instead.
Is it really stealing if, like, you're the one who came up with the original idea
Yeah,
Yeah.
no,
I feel like you can't really steal from yourself.
Yeah, maybe you call it porting. Maybe that makes more sense.
I was gonna say like refitting or recycling or something.
Yeah, recycling makes good sense too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe the way he thinks about it is like Mistborn Prime was its own story and the Final Empire was its own story, and he kind of stole, like he didn't use those original ideas. He took those original ideas that he had originally had and completely repurposed them, so he sees that as stealing from himself. But I mean, it's your idea, man.
But he says here, the reason this works so well for me as a plot sequence is because I can see Tensoon's heart. He and Vince start off rough, and he has no problems planning to betray her. Yet as they grow to be friends, Tensoon grows tormented for the betrayal that he's continually forced to perpetuate. It makes for very strong plotting and character on his part and gives us a surprising bang of a twist here at the climactic scene. It also sets up... Oh, I'm not going to... Never mind. Of course, some of you may...
Up spoilers.
Yeah, well, of course, some of you may have seen that he was
Did
the
that
traitor.
on purpose.
Like Joe saw that he was the traitor. And Brandon says, that's unfortunate, but expected. Readers are just too darn smart sometimes. If you didn't get it, then don't worry, you were just caught up in the story. There's an awful lot of clues, though. Anytime Vin asks, quote-unquote, or Soar about something from the past, he hedges and then guesses and is hesitant. She notes a lot during the beginning of the book that he's acting oddly and not like himself, but attributes it to him being in the dog body.
Yeah, and I think that's most evident probably in this chapter before the confrontation, or maybe it was the previous chapter. They're talking about something that happened like before the Lord Ruler was overthrown, and you can tell he's not sure what she's talking about. And I think it's the last chapter when she's talking about Sazed. Sazed would always say blah 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 blah, and it's very
Like,
clear
how is
that
it relevant?
right. It's very clear that the Khandra is kind of confused about what she's talking about.
Yeah. And, I mean, he's right. There are lots of examples. You may even remember she's like, hey, when you took Kelsier's body and went around saying stuff, what did he have you say? And he's just like, oh, just like really general stuff. And there's one even more when she's going through the records from the logbook about Alendi's logbook. He's like, hey, what's that? And she's like, oh, this is the logbook from, you remember from this thing. He's like, what? She's like, from the guy who was supposed to be the Lord Ruler. And he's like, what do you mean supposed to be the Lord Ruler? What is that? And then he's like, oh, okay, no, I remember what you're talking about.
Yeah, I was totally there. I totally remember that.
He's like, oh shit, did I miss that morning? Oh god.
Yeah. He's like, I love inside jokes. I'd love to be a part of one someday.
Oh, a joke. I get it. I get jokes. But yes, it's a big twist, and I know that I never saw anything about it coming the first time. Even though I think when I first read this book, since this was like a focal mystery that they come back to frequently, I think this was one of the few things that I was like, wait a second, let me see if I can figure out who the traitor is. The same way Vin is trying to figure it out. And I don't think I ever got close. There's something like that in the next book, and we'll talk about it when we get there, where there's one of the only times that I've slowed down enough to be like, okay, let's look at the evidence and see if I can figure this out.
The dog really was the mastermind.
Dance, puppets, dance.
And yeah, Zane is just beating on her and like kicking her while she's down and yelling at her that you could have saved me and now what's left.
It's like, this is just prime, like straight up, uncomfortable abuse, just like hitting someone and saying, it's your fault I'm hitting you.
Yeah.
Like, oh no, this is
right.
Like this like made me feel way more uncomfortable than their attack on Set's Keep, honestly.
Yeah. And I mean, but Vin's been here, right? And I think she says in the chapter, it's like, I've been here. I know how this works. I just need to kind of let it happen. But then she realizes, like, but it's been a long time since then. And that hurt. And that kick hurt. Now I'm starting to get angry.
She's a different person now.
Yeah.
Also, I mean, she tries to reflexively.
Satisfying.
Well, yeah, that's true. She tries to reflexively be like, no, act small, make him think that he's winning or whatever. And he's like, oh, your soothing's not going to help you here. Kick. It is very satisfying when she kills him. Even more so than before when Dak was like, I want it to be like Vin and I want her to kill him because I hate him so much. This just makes it that much better.
Yeah. In direct response to his abuse and just general dickishness.
This is what you were about to get in a relationship with Vin. I mean, examine your priorities here.
For sure.
And she can't do anything because he's got Adium and she doesn't until she remembers and tries the Duralumin. And that doesn't work either. And he's like, oh yeah, Ten soon told me about. I mean, we deduced that you must have found a new metal because you can sense me when my copper is on. So I had him search, and he found the note from your metallurgist, which tells us how to make duralumin. So
Yeah. Which isn't actually how she does it.
nope, his logic was not sound, but it worked anyway. She never revealed to Tensoon, I guess, about the existence of the duralumin necessarily, because he says that they had to kind of deduce it, and she never tells him how she can see through copper clouds. Although it's possible that Orsur, like the original, would have known that from like the last book or something. I don't know. So maybe she's assumed that he did.
There was a scene really early on where, like, she was testing metals to try and find the opposite of aluminium, which I believe it was Dogboy there, like watching, like he and Ellen were in the room. So
yeah, but at that time it didn't actually do anything.
True. Yes.
Yeah, 'cause she didn't know how to work it, and that's the thing I liked about this book a lot, is that like duralumin is like the secret that she keeps from nobody knows.
Yep.
That the duralumin actually works, except for when Tensoon figures it out from the letter, and they just kind of figure it out.
So she's quickly running out of options. The mist has like come into the room, and she's like, maybe I like, now that I'm about to die, like last year, I can draw on the mist again, like I did fighting the Lord Ruler. But nope, that don't work either. And then Zane starts monologuing as he's beating her up. He's like, all that effort wasted, hiding an Allomancer and Set's hireling so you would suspect him, making you fight in front of Ellen so he'd be intimidated by you. All is wasted. You were supposed to save me, blah, blah, blah. And that's when Tensoon speaks up, and he's like, be careful, Master. She knows a lot about the Kandra. It's like, what?
Which feels like a really weird thing to just come out with.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, yeah. Zane's like, shut up. What are you talking about?
She knows our secret. The reason why we follow the contract. Wink.
And Zane's just like, is this really relevant right now?
But that is enough to let her figure it out. And she kind of looks at him and like sees permission in like the way that he's looking at her. And so she does the soothing thing with the duralumin again, and it lets her take control of his body, basically. Which I don't know if anyone was expecting that.
No.
No, definitely not expecting that.
Also, the place my mind went to is like, okay, can control his body. Specifically with soothing? For some reason I thought, pushing and pulling would let you control the body. Soothing? Why soothing?
This is a good question.
I mean, controlling emotion and then controlling the body. The next step further, maybe.
Okay, I could see that.
Yeah, or maybe it's got something to do with the composition of the Kandra, like something in their bodies or goop, responds to that particular metal as opposed to what it does on humans.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe you just have to like push their own like personality and control down with soothing enough to like free it up for someone else to control.
Maybe so.
There's lots of possibilities there. But yeah, she takes control of Tensoon and uses him to attack Zane. And Zane is very surprised by this, but it doesn't stop him for long. He kicks him and like breaks bones and knocks him over to the side. But close enough that Zin is able to grab a dagger and cut out the adium. And then she's like, now we'll see how you do. And
again, it's just like, oh, that's not clean.
No, it's gross.
It was in a vial, right?
It says that she came up with bloodied hands and a single bead of adium. I think it was in a vial.
So maybe not.
But maybe that broke her. I don't know. Or maybe we just skipped the part where she opens the vial. I don't know. And so I don't know about you.
She left the vial inside.
Oh, this'll teach you. I don't know about you guys, but I feel like the part where you're supposed to be like, now Vin's going to do it. This big triumphant moment where like she outsmarts Zane and gets a hold of the adium. And then like 2 paragraphs later, nope. I gave you a lump of lead plated with a thin layer of adium. Did you really think I'd give you the very weapon you needed to fight me? Oh.
It's a good point.
Right. I'm more confused about where he got that to start with. It's like, you had fresh adium that you got someone, because he's not a metalsmith.
Yeah.
Like, you got someone to coat that? Like, is there some random blacksmith who stole some adium while making this bead and is now just like running into the Eastern dominance?
Well, we know he got somebody obviously to make him some duralumin, so he probably just used the same guy.
That's true. I mean, he could order strapped soldiers around however he wanted, and they were so scared of his insanity they probably wouldn't question it.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I just like the idea of this one random blacksmith somewhere just like turning up as a villain in the next book. It's like, aha, look what I have, bitches.
I am the blacksmith.
No one saw that coming.
He's like, 2 hammers, bitch.
I mean, he's really lucky that she didn't, like, she swallowed that during their attack on set and just never used it. And he's really lucky that she didn't, because she would have figured out very fast that he was, like, screwing her over at that point.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Because she had it before she went to fight Set's men, so yeah, what if she had tried to use it then? She would have, like, realized, oh, hey, this is not real.
Yep. So he was playing a dangerous game here with Vin's trust. He's like, you really need to be more careful whom you trust, Vin. Asshole. I hate this guy too. It's fine. He's about to get killed.
And random sidebar here. Oh, this is one way to learn lead is not just a mystery allomantic metal.
Yeah, no, can't burn the lead.
All these
And
other metals,
lump of lead.
real cool shit. Lead? Nah, fuck lead.
That might be enough to give her lead
Poison
poisoning. She may
too.
have to throw that up too.
Yeah.
And she's like, my brother said I shouldn't trust anyone. Zane's like, wise man. Whatever. When somebody likes Reen, you know that he's not a good guy either.
Yeah, that's true.
It's like, this guy who used to beat you up and tell you how worthless you were. That's my role model.
It kind of is. Like, oh gosh, this would have been. I just imagine her like going on the road with Zane, and
Can we not?
no, it would not have gone well.
Yeah, she's like, you have my brother's dickishness.
But then she figures out how to outsmart Adium, which I don't know. That's
Yeah, this is the one. You really teased us on this one. You
I
asked
totally
us in
did,
a previous episode,
Mm-hmm.
like, do you guys think there's a better way, to fight somebody with Adium? Do you? Huh? Do you? And I'm just like, nah, we don't know what Ham said. Yeah, I mean, what else would you do?
So in the annotations, he says that this part is a part that worries him a little bit. This is also something he stole from Mistborn Prime, he says. The thing is, I just haven't spent enough of the plot with Vin working on this problem. Killing an Adium burner was a major plotting conflict in Mistborn Prime, which was a much shorter book, without so much going on. In this book, we have many, many different plot lines and secrets interweaving, and so there isn't a whole lot of time for Vin to worry about how to survive without Adium. But then he wants to assure us that according to the laws of Allomancy, this is very in line with how Adium works. Only someone burning Adium can change the future, but they can change it accidentally by showing someone else what to do.
Yeah, it made total sense to me, just in the idea of instinctual fighting and telegraphing moves and things like that. Like, I feel like if you watch anime like Dragon Ball or Yu Yu Hakusho or other things like that, it's like the fighters figure out a way to predict what's going to happen, and then the other person figures out a way to change what their prediction's going to think so that they can't react fast enough. That, in fact, there's a whole form in the new Dragon Ball series called Ultra Instinct for Goku, which is basically what it is. It's like his body reacts instinctually without any thought on his part so that he can be the ultimate fighter, basically. So, especially when she closes her eyes, it's very like the blind warrior, somebody who can sense and the small, the subtle changes immediately. So it totally makes sense to me. I totally buy it.
I think the first time I read this, I felt like it was a little bit of a cop-out. That it's like, oh no, she doesn't have Adium, but she can just use his Adium, kind of. But the more that I've learned about how this sort of magic works in this universe, the more sense it makes for me.
Yeah, like if Adium's a thing in the next series, which I believe is Westerns, right? I could see this like playing heavily into some kind of gunfight.
Yeah, you told us how that would work. It's like, oh, I see where the bullets are going to go. I can dodge them.
I still can't move faster than them, though. Oh, dear.
I guess they're already kind of doing that with they did that with arrows already, where she could she grab the arrow out of the air to stab Sean with
right.
That would be harder with a bullet to grab out of the air. But yeah, the second Mistborn trilogy is kind of Western-ish. It's kind of it reminds me of Red Dead Redemption, I think, in that it's like this point at which the Old West is kind of ending, and you're getting like this industrial revolution thing happening.
You've had my curiosity. Now you have my attention.
Red Dead. Yes.
I love Westerns in general. I like that whole Twilight of the Old West thing going on, so I'll be well in my element in that book.
Yeah, those are some fun books. They're very different from these, but I like them a lot. Anyway, I don't want to spoil too much about those. I probably already said more than I should have, but you know.
You said too much.
Yeah. So she uses she does this thing where she's like, I'm gonna not know what I'm gonna do until I start to do it. And as she starts to move, she sees Zane move to like block one side so she can see which side she's gonna hit. And using his knowledge of what she's going to do, she does something else, which I think, as he describes it, when we get his point of view, at the last moment, her Adium shadow splits into two possibilities, and he blocks the wrong one and gets a knife through his throat.
Yeah, we totally skipped the part where he stabs her in the breast, which I was just like, ow.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that part just, it's like viscerally unpleasant to me, and that's why I didn't mention it, because I'm just like, yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just not fun.
Being stabbed in the chest, breast, whatever, what have you, sounds pretty awful.
Yeah. Yeah, no, don't. I mean, not that her like cutting open his throat is less awful, but air sucked through blood around the blade. See, it's very gory.
Yeah, but I feel like, she's going for the killing blow. I feel like him stabbing her in the breast is just being
it's just being an asshole for no reason.
Yeah, exactly. Like, he's not trying to kill her at this point. He's just playing with her until he decides he's going to end it.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty clear. It's like, I could turn this knife slightly and kill you with the same stab, but I'm not going to do that. I want to hurt you because I'm a dick. But it's fine, because he gets his comeuppance, and he's laying there, and he's like, I'm dying. And he's trying to tell her, you know why I thought you'd save me? The voice. You were the first person I met. It didn't tell me to kill. The only person. Which, yeah, okay, I can see why, from his completely insane standpoint, that makes her stand out a lot. And God says, of course I didn't tell you to kill her. And then God continues talking. You know what the really funny thing is, Zane? The most amusing part of this all? You were not insane. You never were.
Bum, bum, bum. Yeah, got lots to say about that.
Well, what do you got to say about it?
I'll save it for predictions.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
Mine is not a prediction. It's just, it is in the sense that, that's clearly going to be important later. But the first thought that ran through my head was, wouldn't it be great if, like, that was the voice just getting one final joke, and it's like, you're not crazy, but he actually still is, and it just never comes up again. It's like
his brain's just synapses are firing, and the voice that's tortured him, it's just like, hey, I'm gonna torture you some more before you die.
Yep. How can I mess with this guy the most?
Yeah, it's like, I've got limited time left. Let's go for like the really big fuck with your head here. Then he dies. And it's like, but yeah, it's like nothing ever comes of it. It's like, no, you actually are just
right. It's a real Joker from the comics move. It's just like, oh, Batman.
That's true. Yep.
You won't kill me, but you broke my neck. But if I break my own neck, then I die, and that'll be my joke on you.
And then after Zane dies, we cut to Tensun and Vin having a conversation, and he's like, "I'm sorry." And she's like, "How can I help you?" And he's like, "Help, but I literally nearly got you killed." And she's like, "Yeah, and happens to me all the time. It's fine. How can I help?"
Yeah, do you want me to tell you about the time Kelsey almost got me killed? Because apparently you don't know about that because you weren't there.
And I like that she tells him to take Zane's body, and Tensun's like, "Wait, he's dead? So did he run out of Adium?" She's like, "No, Adium has a weakness. It lets you see the future." He's like, "That doesn't sound like a weakness."
Yeah, I like how he's like in terrible pain, but he's like, "Wait a minute, what? Let's have this conversation about Adium real quick."
This is really irrelevant. This is like universe-altering information as far as he's concerned. And she's just like, I'm sure somebody else has figured it out. It's just not the kind of thing that you would tell somebody that you figured out ever, which is a good point. That is the kind of thing you do to yourself.
Now I just told you, so I fucked that up.
But like his brain was able to figure that out. It's like, wait, like you beat him without Adium, but not wait, he's dead? Well, I'm not, so one of us has to be.
That's a good point. I hadn't thought of that. Maybe he thought that like Zane ran away or something.
Oh yeah, I guess.
And she's like, anyway, have his body. And Tensun's like, I'd really rather not. You don't know how messed up that guy is.
I don't want that. I don't want that at all.
I mean, that's pretty bad.
That. I know where it's been.
Yeah, it's like when the animals that eat dead people for a living. And he not only that, he likes rotten meat even better. When he goes, no, that's too gross for me to eat, then there's something.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. But no, he says that he still has the leftover bones from the first dog, and he can kind of mix and match to make a whole skeleton he can use.
Word.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Vin's like, okay, well, we got a plan for what to do next, and he's like, oh, well, my master's dead. So technically, I have to go back to my people now, since
she's like,
we were never actually.
Yeah, she's like, oh, I understand. But really, I feel like she's like, damn it.
I mean, she feels a wrench of sadness, and she's like, oh, of course. And
He says he's got to go back to be
Everybody leaves.
reassigned, right? Not.
Yeah. That is what he says.
That's what he says, but I guess, like, I guess he could totally lie and be like, no, my master died, so my contract's over.
Well, that's the other thing. It's like his master died. And it's like, we saw him working for Straff in the first book. Like, now that Zane's dead, what makes, like, is there not, like,
I don't know.
some other thing there, or did
You know, you can
Zane
transfer
buy the contract?
So,
or-
yeah, I
Yeah, I was
maybe
about to
Straff
say-
just gave it to him.
Kelsier transferred the contract to Vin for Orser, so I guess Straff can just say, okay, I'm transferring the contract over to you, Zane.
Okay. Weird that he just wouldn't try and take it back, though. Or I guess maybe Tenser's just like, I'm going to get out of here before he realizes he can probably do that.
Right? Nobody wants to work for Straff Venture. It's fine. I'll just go home. He says, I have to at least report to my people. Please forgive me. And she's like, there's nothing to forgive, and thank you. And he's just like, okay, so by the way, you know our horrible secret that a Mistborn can control us with allomancy. I just want you to be aware that my people have been keeping that secret for 1,000 years, so it's kind of a big deal. Please don't tell anybody. And then he says that when you return, I am going to be gone. And she runs off to find Elend. That is the end of the chapter.
What a chapter.
Yeah.
There was betrayal, unrequited love / obsession, death, you know.
So
Had it all.
Any final
Well,
thoughts
sort of.
on these two before we move on to predicaments?
I think those were my final thoughts.
That's fair.
These chapters made me happy.
Because Zane is dead.
Oh, thank
Ding
God.
dong, Zane is dead.
It's like, now I can get to the part of like, all right, I can appreciate this character knowing I'll never have to sit through his whininess again until I reread the book. It's like, and now when I reread it, I know where it's going. So it's like, it doesn't bother me as much.
We've also wrapped up the spy side quest. I almost said, but the side story
Side
there.
quest. Dungeons and Dragons, the spy side quest.
Now we're gonna have a
Subplot.
spy. Now we're subplot.
So
that's what you thought.
that subplot's wrapped up. Now we can get back to the main plot. What's the main plot again?
Yeah, you know, political intrigue.
Kolos fall, everyone dies. That's the main plot at this point.
Nah, man, we're about to get out of Luthadel, which is what I've been wanting. We're gonna follow Vin and Elend. You know, if some of the crew members die, that'll be sad, but get GTFO, man.
You know, it just occurred to me that we talked about previously when Jamie was like, Elend and Zane have never met, and like knowing they're brothers. They never get to meet now as brothers.
Yeah, that's true. Not as
Hey,
brothers.
Ellen, you dodged a bullet.
Yeah, that's true. I really want Vin to just go to Ellen and be like, I just killed your brother. And he's like, wait, what?
Maybe that's what she's going to see Ellen right now. Maybe that's
Yeah.
exactly what
She's like,
It's like
he's
a
like,
massive.
who did this to you? He's like, your brother. Wait, what?
You're no good.
It's just like I have a brother. You had a brother.
Yeah, keep up with the conversation, Ellen.
And then he's like, that just raises further questions.
Okay, predictions. What is going to? I mean, that's kind of a prediction. Joe has now predicted that she's gonna by the way, I
Sure.
killed your brother.
You know,
But no,
comic relief,
seriously.
we need some.
What Joe? You can start out this time. What predictions?
All right, cool. Yeah. So there's a lot of interesting little tidbits here, especially in the second chapter. So my kind of prediction for this is kind of long-reaching, and hopefully it pays off. So there's several moments in these two chapters, especially, you know, we find out about the spike, and immediately like, well, that's not normal. That's got to be the source of some kind of thing. And we know he's got this voice inside his head, and now the voice itself is claiming that it's real and that he's not insane. So maybe the spike has something to do with that. And then we get the bits in the fight, and we didn't really talk about this, but I noticed a few times, at least, you know, maybe I'm reading too much into it, or maybe I'm not reading the book properly, but I noticed a couple of times in here where Vin, this is something we kind of didn't talk about at all. Vin tries to pull on the power of the mists. And
Yeah,
it does not work.
I mentioned that. Yeah.
Oh, you did. I must not have heard. Anyway, she tries to pull on the power of the mist. It does not work.
Nope.
Before Homeboy shows up, Zane, before he shows up, the mists are kind of hanging around in her room, and she's kind of like, that's weird.
Yep.
And then during the fight, there are several times where the mists are kind of they appear to be hanging around Zane.
Yep.
More than they're hanging around Vin. And he's stronger than her. not just because he's a man. I think there's some kind of innate thing that's making him stronger, a really powerful Mistborn. And we know Vin is a powerful Mistborn. But the mists seem to be favoring him. And so then I was thinking, well, if in the very first book she drew on the power of the mist to kill the Lord Ruler, and now this guy Zane is drawing on the power of the mists, or at least it appears like he is, or the mists are favoring him in some way. Now, what does that tell me? We've also got this mist monster, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how it connects yet, because I haven't put that together in my head, or how that would work. But somehow I gotta say that the spike has got to be somehow the generator of this voice in his head. And if it's the deepness or whatever it is that is the mist, and you've got these mist monsters, and you've got this voice in Zane's head, and the mists are favoring him, then I have to say that those are all connected in some way. Which leads me to believe that when she drew on the power of the mists in the first book to kill the Lord Ruler, it's because the mists wanted the Lord Ruler to die. They wanted him to die because they wanted to be able to come back. So when she tries to call upon the mists after he dies, it's not happening because the mists don't care. The deepness doesn't want to help her now. It wants to help itself.
They recognize that she's gonna, if she goes to the well, she's gonna try and force them back again because they've been watching her.
Right.
Whereas, so they favored Zane to try and get rid of her.
Exactly. So you've got, so now even though apparently the voice never said to kill her. So that tells me that the voice, the mist, is also interested in Zane if those things are, in Vin if those things are connected. Maybe they think that she'll go to the Well of Ascension and she'll totally screw it up and let the mist cover the Earth. I don't know. Or not the Earth, whatever this planet, I forget what this planet's called. Scadrial, yeah. Maybe they think that's what's going to happen. So they're trying to, but when they see their chance in Zane, and Zane's got this creature or whatever it is inside him talking to him. So anyway, basically what I'm getting at is the mists, the spike, the voice, they're connected in some way as the deepness. And if that's the case, then this voice belongs to something or someone that is some kind of entity. I don't know what, but something. So, because if he's that crazy, and if there really is something inside his brain, or inside his chest, rather, then there's got to be something to fight, some kind of creature or force to fight that is sentient. So that's kind of my prediction. I know that's a long way to get to. I'm not sure yet what it is, but there's something there.
It definitely sounded kind of sentient. It's even using like first-person pronouns, where it's like, "Of course I didn't tell you to kill her."
Yeah.
Yeah, there's actually a intelligent mind behind the deepness. If that we should, well, I think we all assume that's the deepness now, don't we?
I mean, yeah, I'm just gonna go make that leap.
Okay, interesting. So yeah, it all makes sense, all logically thought through. I like it.
Yeah, sorry, it's not as world-shattering as the dog is the Conjurer's spy, but I feel like I was justified here, and all you naysayers who said I read ahead,
See,
I'm not that guy.
We say that, but it's like even Sanderson in the annotations we read today still guessed this in advance. So
yep.
Yeah, I mean, one out of the three of us, we got a 33.3% chance. Repeating, of course.
I don't know that that's the way that works. When there's like a million characters, it could have been. But okay.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay, Dak, you were already kind of coming in on that. So what do you got?
I don't know at this point. While we're obviously building towards, they're going to leave the city, I get the feeling we're probably going to be in Luthadel a bit more because it's going to take some convincing to get Vin and Ellen to leave. So I think there's going to have to be something that comes in that just sort of like convinces them that like there is nothing we can do here. You need to leave in order to save us. So I think there's going to be more action in Luthadel to come, and like so really the climax of the book will be their decision, will be them getting out and deciding we're going to the well. Because I know Vin says she wants to leave, but the others are trying to convince Ellen to go with her, and that's going to be some time. And if she thinks he's in danger from all this, she may delay her decision again. So yeah, I think something's going to happen in the city, and at least some people in the crew are about to die. My money's on Clubs and Ham because they're the ones like in charge of the military, and Ham seems to be the one who most wants to protect Elend. So I think the final conflict of this book is going to be with Straff. And then, like, after that conflict is resolved, that's when, we're out, we're going, we're heading north.
Okay. Interesting. So you think they're going to try, but maybe not necessarily succeed to get them out of the city like they want.
Yeah, I think maybe Vin will leave and then she'll come back for Elend or something. But if it had been like halfway through the book, we decide that's when we're leaving to go on this epic road trip, then that'd be one thing. But with the amount of space we have left in, I think all of a sudden changing the action of the book and like the location of the book to be so removed from all the plots that have built up to this so far, that seems a bit weird to me. So I don't think like we're all of a sudden just going to throw that spanner into the works. It's not going to be like what was it, AI, artificial intelligence, where it's like all of a sudden the last 20 minutes are so far in the future with alien robots and shit.
I never saw that, but okay, I'll take your word for it.
Okay. I did actually really like that movie, but yeah, like the ending was very disparate.
Yeah, we are 78% of the way through this book, so it would be kind of late for it to take a giant tonal shift, especially if we think the Sanderlanche is starting. Moving away from the action of Luthadel might seem strange.
This does seem to still be a fair amount to resolve here. We've still got the two armies that are bearing down on Luthadel, and particularly now that Vin is so injured, she's going to need time to heal before she can go anywhere. So I don't think the crew's plan of trying to make Elend believe that it's all hunky-dory is going to really go anywhere. He's going to see that, Vin's been attacked, she's really hurt. Yeah, I know we sort of were calling him, Captain Oblivious and everything, but I don't think he's that oblivious. For him to just be informed that, no, it's all good, we got it under control, you go. I just don't see that happening. So also they've made a big deal about Zane informing Straff that he was going to take Vin out of the city, and then that was their plan, and then now she's not out of the city. Has that given Straff confidence to come back in rather than just withdraw, which is exactly what they think he's going to do anyway? Yeah, so I think, I'm not sure that we'll even make the start of this journey in this book. I know it's The Well of Ascension is the book, but there's a lot of talk about The Well of Ascension. And if we're talking about the Hero of Ages, well, whatever the Hero of Ages has to do is at the Well of Ascension. The prophecy, I guess, can be believed. So, yeah, I'm inclined to agree with Dak that we're not going anywhere for a little while.
Yeah, okay. It's like the title is actually the motivation of the book, not the subject. It's like Attack of the Clones. The clones didn't do any attacking. They were defending.
That's true. Well, mostly. I mean, I guess they kind of show up to attack to save people. I don't know if that counts as an attack.
They didn't start the war, though. They came in to defend. But
they
anyway.
didn't start the fire. It's always been burning.
Oh, we're gonna.
Didn't start the fire.
Okay.
We'll get some hate mail over that, I'm sure.
Fair enough. Any other predictions, Jamie?
I didn't really have a huge amount more. I kind of liked where Joe was going with the voice of God and the spike and the deepness and all that sort of stuff. It sort of made me think a bit about Inquisitors in general, and do they hear voices and all that sort of stuff. And we haven't seen Marsh in a little while, so I still think maybe that sort of stuff will come back. If we're not going to see Zane again, maybe that's something important we've learnt about the spikes. I can't remember how many spikes they've got. Is it 9?
That's a good question. It is. I remember there's like a certain number and they're connected by the middle one. So they're.
Yeah.
I think 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Isn't there six through the chest and 2 through the eyes, and they were connected by the 1 in the.
I was counting body parts, and based on what spikes may be in body parts, I think we figured out there were 9 because there are 9 like elementic metals, like original elementic metals.
That's sort of what I was thinking. I was like, maybe there's 8 of the basic metals, and maybe the 1 to connect them to the deepness. Particularly now they're linked to Quan and the word wall and all that sort of stuff. Maybe there's a bit going on there, but I hope we learn a little bit more about all of that before the book's through.
Right, I had to go back to the last book to look. There are 11 total spikes.
11.
2 in the head.
11.
8 in the chest, and then 1 to seal them together.
Yeah. That's their Achilles
There's
spike.
too many spikes.
Yeah, that's too many.
Any number
I
of
don't even want
spikes
one
is too many
spike.
spikes. Yeah.
Yeah, true.
Okay.
Something I forgot to mention in my predictions that I wanted to touch on, because Jamie reminded me when she mentioned Marsh, because we didn't really touch on this when she somebody else's footprints, and I'm like,
Yep.
well, that's probably Marsh.
We know this. There's an Inquisitor in the city.
Yeah, and so my thought is, this is a stray prediction thought that I had. It's like, what if Marsh comes in at the end and saves the day, but then it turns out he's not like the actual savior. He is setting himself up to be the ruler of Luthadel.
Ooh.
You know,
Dark.
because of some evil
fourth
machinations in his head. Yeah, but it's literally just him, because that's how badass he is now. So that was a stray thought I had, especially when she goes through Critic Shaw and she sees that somebody's been there and somebody reported an Inquisitor being there. So I'm thinking,
Right.
well, what is Marsh doing at Critic Shaw? Maybe there's something there that nobody thought of or nobody found.
We did hear that there's an Inquisitor hanging around, and if
Right.
there's one group of people who would not be scared to go and walk around Critic Shaw, that would be who it would be, right?
Right.
Also a good place to hide. If nobody
He's just
else
gone
goes
back
there.
for his stuff.
He left his stuff there.
Yeah.
Actually, I did forget a prediction as
Yeah.
well. I don't know how I forgot this, considering it was a bulk of what we talked about today. So Tensoon going back to his homeland for reassignment, and he's given away the secret of the Kandra to Vin. And he goes back, and like, if they find out, they might not be happy. So maybe a conflict for the third book will be an army of mist monsters trying to kill Vin for knowing the secret.
Ooh, that would be bad.
Yeah.
These guys are super sneaky.
Yeah, those gooey blobs.
They go around killing
And,
your
that could
friends just to get a shot at you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could just be like the ultimate, like, who do you trust, who do you not trust? Because it turns out everyone is being overtaken by this army of Kandra.
At the end of the book, everyone but Vin is a Kandra. It's
Wow, that's dark.
But as well, you think about Tensoon having to go back and be reassigned. It's like, what story does he tell? He killed his master, or his fake master took control of his body to kill his master. You're kind of in a rock and a hard place there.
Well, to be fair, I mean, she used him to attack him. He didn't kill Zane. Vin cut his throat. So on a technicality, he might be okay there.
I don't think that's what we were getting at. It's more just the fact that, oh, by the way, this, like, yeah, my fake master killed my actual master by doing the thing we have tried to keep hidden for centuries.
Yeah.
Right.
How did she know that she could just do that?
Yeah. How much truth does he
It's
tell?
not just it's not a rock and a hard place though, Jamie. It's a rock and a blob place.
So a soft place.
Well, he'll be okay then.
Yeah.
Well, not if the other blobs can eat him.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, maybe
Man,
that's how
Is that how they execute
each other.
people? Oh,
yeah,
geez.
exactly. They got like a giant blob that like is the executioner, and he's so giant because he's eating all the other blobs.
Gross.
Oh.
Okay. On that note, let's move into emails. We have gotten 3 emails. First one is from Angela, and I believe this was the second Angela that we got emails from.
Before we get into this, I had
yeah?
a really good name to call our Angelas,
Okay.
because we have multiple.
Oh, yeah?
They're the Sanderlangelas.
I don't know that I can say that.
Say it 3 times fast.
Sanderlangela, Sanderlangela, Sanderlangela.
Yeah,
job.
Sounds like a Mexican food.
Wow. That was slightly offensive.
Was it?
No.
Okay. She's like, no, not really. Good.
Sorry, keep going. Angela wrote us an email.
says, Hi, Sanderlanche crew. I have to agree with J. Jonah Jameson's email from this last episode about being surprised about
Nice.
one piece of foreshadowing that no one has picked up on. And then in a note, which I will not read, she talks about the piece of foreshadowing that she thinks he's talking about. Actually, no, that is a different piece of foreshadowing, Angela, than what J. Jonah Jameson was talking about.
Oh, great.
Oh my god.
Anyway, then she says, I know that we know the outcome of the books, so you could argue that in retrospect it was really obvious to us. However, as established in my last email, I didn't feel like I was particularly observant as I was reading these books, and was very surprised with most of the twists. But this is the one that I think I actually did pick up on. I feel like it gets danced around every now and then, and I keep waiting for someone to have a big aha moment. I'll be interested to see if anyone picks up on it before it all plays out. I don't think...
Well, now that I...
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, now that I got my brain off of the spy thing, since that's done,
Yep.
maybe I'll have time.
That could be
to
what she's
figure it
talking
out.
about, though.
I mean, I guess, but I feel like I was pretty heavy-handed with that.
Well, that's true. If it was somebody figuring that out, then you would have definitely been. Okay, so Angela, I think, interestingly enough, that while maybe no one's picked up on that specific piece of foreshadowing and called it out, the result has still been predicted at some point. I think someone's already called that, and maybe just not based on that one bit, if I'm remembering correctly. Anyway, so yeah, that was vague for everyone else, but sorry.
Very.
And then she says, shout out to the other Angela, and then in parentheses, Angela 1. Go you for being a teacher in this crazy time.
Angela Prime.
Ooh. And I
Angela
love that we were on
Prime.
the same wavelength with the sign-off. Thank you again for the fun podcast and good discussions. I always listen as soon as new episode drops in my podcast app. Wasing to the time of next, Angela 2. Thank you, Angela, for letting me be completely, like, mysterious, and that's always fun for me. And then our other two are both from Retro Rocket. Neither of them is very long, though, so it's...
Yeah, let's just not read those. Let's move on.
Joe's all like, I'm getting tired of this retro guy. Grumble. He said, so I have been thinking about it, and I think instead of just random guy, it has to be some random guy. So anyway, I don't think anything came up specifically. Okay, I don't... The most random note in here that I don't...
Whoa. Yeah. Hey, by the way, Retro Rocket.
So anyway, for some random guy, Volcano Dude, and other girl, what do you think the deepness is? Do you think the characters are correct and it's the mists, or do you think...
Wait, what?
He says, do you think the characters are right that the deepness is the mists, or do you think that something else is going on and maybe they are not correct?
Well, I feel like I just predicted that, so I feel like that's all I know or feel. You know, some thoughts on right now.
Okay. Anybody else?
I feel like with the information we have received, I think it points towards the mist, but I'm not ruling out that it could be another blind. You know, it turns out the dog is the deepness. Who fucking knows?
There really is a tentacle monster out there.
I'm banking on
It's a
that.
very tentacly dog.
Dude, that would be awesome. Tentacle dog.
I don't know that would be awesome. I don't think I agree with that.
Dogticles.
Well, what would be better than a dog that, you know, is loyal and trustworthy? A dog with a bunch of tentacles that can grab stuff for you.
It'll make a game of fetch so much more interesting.
He also
Yeah,
says,
it's like the cat from what the Flula or whatever it's called. What is it called?
Flula Borg?
No, the
He's in
the
Pitch Perfect
thing
too.
from Captain Marvel. The cat thing.
the Flurgan.
Oh,
Flurkin.
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 Sure, whatever.
Yeah, that thing. It's like that, but with a dog.
It scratches out Nick Fury's eyeballs.
Yeah, well, he had it coming.
He says, what do you think Marsh is up to? I think we've kind of talked about that, but then also, where do you think the other Inquisitors have disappeared to from the Convectical, and what do you think they're doing?
I feel like we talked about that on a previous episode a while back. My theory is still the same, that they have gone to the well, that they're trying to create like a new Lord Ruler.
Yeah, we did talk about that. You're right.
Or maybe they all just accidentally got stuck to a wall somewhere. Like how Kelsey pounded that one dude's spikes into a wagon he couldn't get free. It's like the rest of them just like, no. I
they're all
rolled
stuck
over in my sleep and now I can't get up.
I was wondering how he got stuck to a wall. I was like, wait a second, that's not this book. That's a different book where things get stuck to walls.
It's like he's got corks. They didn't remember to put the corks on the back of their spikes, so they're just
That's right.
running around getting stuck to stuff.
They forgot to cork. It's very sad. He also says, what do you think at this point, and now we're much later than when he wrote this book, but what do you think about the titular Well of Ascension? And we kind of talked about this episode a little bit too. Any additional thoughts about this thing that we haven't seen?
Not that I haven't already said in
that's
previous
kind of
episodes.
Yeah.
Okay, that's his first email, and his second one just says, I just want to say, Data, and then he has a quote from me where I said, there's this other story, and it's more interesting than the story we're watching. He says, you aren't watching the Well of Ascension. So he called me out on that, which is probably fair because I've done that to other people. So, okay, you got me. And he also says, also loving the theories, especially in this episode. So I think that was the second episode that we recorded is the one that would have just come out then. So.
Yeah, if you guys don't remember, we recorded a bunch of episodes right in a row, so we're way in the future, or we were way in the past, I guess, when those episodes were made.
I don't know if you
Now
guys
is
saw.
now, but then was then.
then was also now at one point, but now is now. I don't know.
By
if
the time you hear this, now is then.
That's true.
That's right.
That's a good point.
Oh my god.
New.
New.
Yeah, and technically, we're in the United States and they're in Australia, so technically they're in the future.
Yep, true.
Jamie and Dak are in the future, and we're in the past.
Yeah.
This is a
Time travel.
time traveling phone call. Yep. Okay, so
Yep.
I don't know if you guys saw, but somebody on Twitter added us and was like, "Hey host, how do you spell your name? I've been looking at every description of every episode, but I couldn't find your name, so I don't know how to spell it."
You don't know how to spell data? Come
I don't
on,
write my
man.
own in there, I guess. That's a good point. And then this person is called L, by the way. And they said, anyway, you should add the names of everyone in the podcast bio. Great job, guys. Really love the podcast. And so I replied, I'm like, you know what? That's a good idea. I will add people's names in the podcast bio. So now everybody's names are in the description of the podcast on Twitter.
I was going to say, like the bio is simply Dak, JB, and Joe. Like read the books for the first time while Data laughs.
That should be it. Yep.
Yeah. He makes us answer questions that he knows we'll get the answer to.
Well, yeah. What fun would it be if you weren't going to get the answer to the questions ever? That would be sad. While we're talking about stuff that people have sent in, after the last few episodes, I did set up a Discord server for the Sanderlanche server. I haven't actually invited anyone to it or anything. It's just sitting out there. But I set it up, so if we decide to get people together for discussions, then there's like a no spoilers channel and a spoilers channel. And
is this one of those things we're allowed to do or not allowed to do?
I don't know that you guys will be allowed in. We'll have to see. I don't want somebody accidentally spoiling something for you guys. So you three may not be allowed, but I wanted to make sure I mentioned on the show so that everyone knew that it is a thing out there that I've created now. I've never actually made a Discord server before, so I did my best here. I don't know if I have to invite people, or if now that I've said it's called the Sanderlanche server, people can find it on their own. I don't know how that works, so I guess I'll figure it out as we go further along.
Yeah, I think you do have to be invited.
So we will see. In any case, that is everything that we got for this week. For next week, we will be reading chapters 48, 49, and 50. So 3 chapters for next week. This may actually be the longest section we've read this book. Not by a lot, but I measure everything, since I'm using my Kindle copy, by Kindle locations, and each location is 12 characters or something ridiculous like that. So for instance, this episode was 598 locations long, while this next one will be 745 locations long.
Okay.
So, yeah, random randomness.
I don't know what to do with this information.
Yeah. There's nothing that you can do with this information.
This is a unit of measurement
Some
that I have no
more
clue.
useless statistics.
Yep.
Yeah, we've come
that's my
to the
area of
useless
expertise.
statistics part of the show. Everybody get your glasses on. We're gonna read through the statistics some more.
But when I'm figuring out how much text that we will read for each episode, this is almost my upper limit. I've made 750. We're not going above 750. So this will be close to that. But anyways, so for next week, 3 chapters, read those, and we are down to, there's 4 episodes total left in this book. So we're coming right up against it.
Oh.
Yeah, we have to be in the Sanderlanche now.
We're 78% of the way through the book. We got, that means 22% in these 4 episodes.
Yeah.
Things are happening. It's very exciting.
It's all coming together now.
Please come back next week, everyone. Hang out with us.
It's going to end with Vin fighting Quan with swords on the tip of the well, and Quan goes, "I am your father," and Vin goes, "No," and falls down the well.
It is the second book, so that totally makes sense. Yep. That's exactly how it goes.
Yep, real Empire moment. She get her hand cut off too.
Yep, a literal Empire moment, as it even.
Yeah.
Jo was
She
always
almost
very
got him.
certain last book that her father was secretly someone other than who they thought it was. So
Yeah. She almost got a mastectomy in this chapter. It was
Oof.
rough.
yeah, yeah, that's a thing.
That is accurate.
Okay, so come back next week. We will talk about these 3 chapters. Music by Miracle of Sound. Wuzzing to the time of next, everyone.
And we try to keep a little beauty in the world. All that died, we're keeping in our hands. page. Ooh, we never let it fade.